Do you ever feel like you need a vacation from your vacation? I certainly have, and I'm going to take you along today as we pack for our Thanksgiving vacation and go over some of my favorite tips to get you on the road smoothly. Hey friend, I'm Mary Beth with At What Cost, where simple living and deep faith go hand in hand. And I am somewhat of a self-proclaimed family travel expert. Why, you ask? Well, because I have been traveling for the holidays pretty much every year since I was an infant. In fact, I probably can think of maybe 2 or 3 times that we actually stayed at home for the holidays. Today, I'm going to share my top 5 tips for traveling, especially as a family. And I'm going to start with the best one. I could save it till the end, but let's face it. It's like almost time for you to leave for your trip, maybe in a few hours, and you haven't even started packing. So why wait till the end? Although I do hope you watch all the way through and get all of the tips, because there are some bonus tips at the end. Tip number 1, determine the goal or the priority for your trip. Now, this sounds, I think at first glance, a little obvious, or maybe like it's not that big of a deal, but it really is. Let me explain to you 3 trips that we have as an example. 2 that we've already taken and 1 that we are about to take. In July, we took our annual summer vacation, which we were taking in our camper and meeting up with friends. The priority of this trip was fellowship. We don't see our friends all that often. Our kids love playing with their kids, and we had a few things planned away from the campground, but for the most part, our goal was good food, playtime for the kids, campfires, and catching up. That meant that the things we brought with us needed to match up with that priority. I left the books I wanted to read, my bullet journal that it would have been nice to kind of get ahead a few weeks in, cross stitch for me to do in the car, because let's face it, I never actually end up doing it. I'm usually trying to find a new movie or slinging snacks at my kids. Fast forward to earlier this month. We traveled from Georgia to Michigan for my dad's memorial service. 19 hours in the car, twice. 3 actual days there. 2 of them were almost entirely in dress clothes and visiting with people. Again, all of the things I would have loved to do on a road trip didn't really matter. And despite feeling like we weren't actually going to be there all that long, I packed way too much. And at the time, I didn't think I was packing all that much. But more on that later. Fast forward to our future trip, the one that we are packing for today, and that is a trip to Florida for relaxation. The whole priority of this vacation is to relax and restore. The house has a pool, we're going to the beach, and really just spending time reconnecting with our kids and each other, playing games and having fun. Now, there is a caveat to this, that there won't be any other kids there except my own. I didn't bring a bunch of pool toys and games and things like that in July because our kids are just happy to make their own fun with their friends. This time around, it's just the 3 of them, and they will enjoy having a few things to play with that isn't each other. And because they'll be playing in the pool, I'll have a little time to read. But even then, I'm just bringing the 1 book. You know you can't read all 5 of those titles that you're just dying to get through for the week. I'm like that too. I want to go big and give myself a lot of variety, but ultimately, I end up feeling stressed out before we even leave the driveway. I know this tip seems a little obvious, but I am definitely guilty, and maybe you are too, of knowing the priority and completely packing for my own priorities and agenda, rather than really thinking about what the trip calls for and what we really want to get out of it. Let's not overpack with a bunch of stuff that doesn't actually fit with the goal of our trip. Which brings me to our next tip. Tip number 2, pack the bare essentials. and nothing more. In July, we were in our camper in a campground. We were making the most of our time with friends, and there was no way I was doing laundry more than once a week during that week. But at the end of our trip, when things were kind of slowing down, it's a perfect time to throw a load of laundry in and kind of just unwind for a little while. We were there for a week, so I packed 5 outfits for our kids and ourselves, and we had the space to store it, and it was fine. Our trip to Michigan, on the other hand, I packed 3 days of casual clothes and all of our dress clothes for the 2 other parts of the day that we had to be in dress clothes. And despite packing for 3 days of casual clothes, we actually only needed 1 set of them. Our son spilled food all over his pajamas. The other son spilled juice all over his pajamas. And by the time we got to the end of our first day, I really needed just to kind of have some quiet time, and why not do a load of laundry at the friend's house that we were staying at, which meant the clothes that we had been wearing that day for our casual clothes, I just went ahead and threw in the laundry, which meant they were clean for the next day. So ultimately, I really didn't end up needing all of the extra clothes that I brought. And I ended up doing laundry at the end of our trip just before I left, which made it really easy when I got home from a 19-hour car trip straight through with our kids and my mom, who rode back home with us. Having all of that clean laundry and not having to worry about doing any of that when we got home was a huge burden off my shoulders. I guess this tip may have been, don't be afraid to do laundry while you're on vacation or staying with someone, because in most cases, you absolutely can. I think oftentimes in the hustle and bustle of vacation, we kind of need a day to slow down and maybe do some laundry. In fact, usually by the end of a pretty long trip, my husband and I are straight up Hunger Games over who gets to sit at the laundromat for an hour and a half with no kids. Trust me.
I volunteer as tribute.
Take advantage of some time to do laundry. Tip number 3, you control your trip. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I have been traveling for the holidays far away from home for many, well, not many. I mean, I'm not that old, but still. I have been traveling quite a bit, and the constant bid for, can we see you during this trip, or will you come over? We'd love to spend time with you, can honestly be a little exhausting. When you live further away from our friends and family and you come back into town, there can sometimes be a lot of bids for your attention. And it's totally okay for you to say no to some of those things. It's completely okay for you to say, this is where we will be on this day or evening or whatever. Anyone that wants to see us is welcome to come. And then put the burden on those who want to see you to make it work. Your time is limited. You've gone a long way to get there, and it's okay for you to put that burden on your family and friends to figure out how it will work for them to see you. And if you are some of our close personal friends and family, sorry, not sorry. It can be equal parts of fun and exciting and exhausting. So give your traveling friends plenty of grace. Tip number 4, bring snacks. Bring snacks. We are not big snack people at home. In fact, I don't buy cookies and candies and things like that and have it in the house. But when we go on a road trip, by golly, we are going to have some snacks. Things like gummy worms or gummy bears, pretzels, squeeze applesauce, mandarin oranges. This is a great one because they smell so fresh in the car. It just kind of revitalizes the trip. They're great for like halfway through your trip when everyone is tired of being in the car. It's very refreshing and just brings a whole wonderful scent to your car. Things like granola bars or any other snacks that you really enjoy. And of course, juice boxes or water, but not too many because all restrooms are not created equally. Just saying. Family, road trip time, and packing for your family. This is a time to really pull out all the stops, friend. When things start to get a little tense in the car and the kids are fighting and whining and fussing and complaining at you, it's time to start slinging some snacks at some kids. I mean, not hard, but sometimes you gotta toss a granola bar back to your kid in the way back who is fussing at you about his movie not working for the 1,000,000th time. And those little 4 or 8 gallon cheap trash bags are perfect for road trips. Every time you stop, gather up any trash that you have in the car, toss it in the bag, toss them in the bag as you go. And then when you do get to those stops, throw them out. It will keep your car nice and tidy. And of course, if you have a potty situation, I mean, we all have with littles, right? Like everyone has ended up at some point with a massive blowout when you are stuck in the middle of Atlanta traffic. So keep a couple of those small trash bags on hand to contain the messes. Tip number 5, get good at Tetris. You want to use every available real estate in your car without overpacking it. And if you've gotten some of these other tips down, you'll be taking way less with you. But don't be afraid to really utilize your space. When we take long trips, we usually use a hitch rack with this bin on the back. It's perfect for storing all kinds of things. And when we came back from Michigan earlier this month, we had an extra passenger that we didn't have going up. So we used our soft-sided car top carrier. Do you feel a little like the Griswolds with a car top carrier and a hitch rack? Well, yeah, of course. But it's a lot more comfortable in the car, which makes for a much more pleasant trip. And I mean, the gummy bears help too. It's time for some bonus tips. Let's talk about technology. Now, I think there are a lot of us moms who really kind of, in the grand scheme of things, months before we take this road trip, we think to ourselves, you know what? We're going full Montessori with this road trip. No technology. Everyone's going to use the windows in the car as their TV, and we're going to enjoy the scenery. And we all know how that ends up, right? I mean, let's get real. And if you are really really stuck on the no technology in the car, then this is probably going to make you mad. But I'm sorry, you're just going to have to get over it. Because after you have spent 19 hours in the car with 3 fighting kids, sometimes they just need to watch a movie and it's going to be okay. We love our children, but in the car in close quarters for long periods of time, especially when we're not taking that kind of meandering road trip where you have a lot of stops along the way, those kind of like get in the car and haul it down to wherever, that's where the rubber meets the road with this. And it's easy for me to look back on all of those trips with our family as being kind of this like rose-colored glasses, like we never had portable TVs in my traveling days. And while that's true, we didn't actually have like a TV in our car. I did bring little toys, my Walkman, my Discman. I did bring some of those things along to entertain me along the way. I never spent an entire trip just happy to look out the window at the scenery as we went by. So I know now, looking back on those times as being that kind of like, we never had those in my day and we were perfectly fine, is totally garbage. It's just totally garbage because I distinctly remember being on the expressway in Ontario as we were driving from Vermont to Michigan, and my brother and I fighting so much that my dad pulled over on the side of the expressway to, well, remind us that we needed to be quiet. I have many wonderful memories of traveling as a child. And when we really do bring balance to our trips and having those times where our kids do kind of learn to entertain themselves in the car, but also have some time to kind of escape into their own little space on those long trips where there's really no place for us to go, is really key in finding balance in our road trips. We personally have a 3-hour minimum when it comes to technology. We don't break out any Kindle Fires or iPads or any of the other things until we have been in the car at least 3 hours. And because we have that standing rule, the smaller trips that we take, we don't actually bring any of our stuff with because we know that we have to be in the car 3 hours before we get to have technology. I've just come to realize that unless the scenery is significant, the road trip is a lot more relaxing for all of us when we balance time with our technology and time without. And balance doesn't have to mean equal. I mean, I know it does in like the math world, but when it comes to road trip math, it just doesn't function that way. There are a lot of factors that go into our travel, and it may be that the more balanced way to look at things is to unplug when we get to our destination. And double bonus tip, pack early, go to bed early, receive God's grace, apologize when you need to, and for crying out loud, enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful trip and go get that packing done. It's not going to get itself done, and you need to get to bed before you have to leave tomorrow morning. So hurry up. Thanks for watching today. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. And if you are looking to take your faith a little deeper, I'd love for you to consider joining our Bible study group where we are diving into the book of Revelation. You can click the join button, or you can go to the About tab and click on our Bible study. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.